use to go. So there we are. We're back. We should be back on YouTube. All right, guys. What were we talking about? All of a sudden, everybody,
Olympics,
myself, people on Edmonton Sports Talk, they're probably listening in on TuneIn, and they're wondering, like, why is this guy talking to himself? Who's he talking to? And there were other people in this conversation. They're back now. We're having a little conversation. We're talking Olympic hockey. The fact that Connor McDavid is not going to play in the Canadian Olympic team until he's 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, the subject was Sidney Crosby. So you think he's a shoe-in, but just maybe not in the
I think he'll be on the fourth line, but I also think he could be on the top power play unit potentially.
Yeah, interesting how that power play unit could look.
I put out a prediction for it. I think it will be McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Bedard, and Makar.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's think about this. Your thoughts, Lotzi? Have you looked at what the projected lineup might be for?
I've seen a lot of different mocks out there. There's some consistent names that come up time and time again, and there's a few guys that are in and out depending on who you're thinking about. But like, that power play you're talking about sounds disgusting. Like, you got McDavid, who can make anything happen out there. Crosby is an amazing playmaker, but can also fill the net himself. You got Bedard, whose shot is unbelievable, and then McKinnon, who's also got a ripper himself, and then Makar playing quarterback. That's dynamic.
Yeah. So the two shoe-ins, right, are obviously Makar and McDavid, right?
Yeah.
So we got that.
McKinnon should be just about a lock too.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so Makar, McDavid, McKinnon, so all the mix. And then I mean it's hard to say on Bedard. I think it's hard not to have him on there.
You got to remember we're predicting 2 years into the future, right? So
that's why I'm thinking. Year. Yeah.
Do you go with the net front, or would you rather have Crosby out there with them instead of having like a pure net front presence kind of guy?
Sorry, Eric, say that again.
Would you rather have Crosby out there, or maybe a bit of a bigger body in front of the net with those four?
Hard to say. Like, Crosby's never done a net front role,
yeah.
But like you'd almost have to have a specialist, kind of like a Zach Hyman, on the team for that specific purpose. Right?
I think he's got a shot.
Like
I think he has a chance.
He has a shot.
I mean, but Crosby's never played that role because he hasn't had to.
Very true.
But I mean, if anybody's capable, I mean, his hand-eye is among the best in the league. Like, I mean, he can tip that puck whichever way he wants, right?
And he has the composure to make a play. Like, if the puck lands on his stick, he knows what to do with it. I don't care what situation.
I mean, he might be like prolific in front of the net. Like,
I'm selling you on this idea a little bit, Michael.
Yeah, I love it. Like, yeah.
The way that I look at it, though, is like hockey. Team Canada is the hardest hockey team on earth to make. Right? Mm-hmm. If we're talking about just players who are going to be starting, not the taxi squad in the press box, there's 12 forward spots, 6 D spots, 2 goalies. I mean, to be one of Canada's 12 best forwards, it's impossible almost to make that team for most guys. So the fact that Hyman is even being considered, like I put out my list of who I thought was going to get in from the Oilers on Twitter the other day, and I had Hyman getting in, and I think that he might be sort of in that Chris Kunitz sort of role that Crosby had back in 2014, where there might be a guy or two that you would think should be there over Hyman, but the chemistry with McDavid might just be what gets him there.
And how old is Hyman going to be by the time this tournament starts?
34?
Yeah, I think that's the counter argument to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at just top six players. And Bob the goalie chimed in. He said Wayne Gretzky once said back in 2002 that if Mario Lemieux wants to be on the Olympic team, then he will be. And I think that same reasoning applies to Crosby. Bob, you're 100% right. I think if Crosby says, "Yeah, I want to be on the team," he's on the team, and he's earned it. If anybody's earned it, Crosby has. I was probably one of the last to actually give McDavid the throne over Crosby. Like I just and even now, like how many goals has Crosby got this year? Like
And,
he's not slowing down. Like,
and if you'll just allow me, Michael, quickly before we move on to this, if you think back to the '87 Canada Cup, Wayne Gretzky sort of took a mentorship role over Mario Lemieux and showed him what it takes to win. And that was huge for Lemieux early in his career. And eventually he went on to captain the Penguins to a couple Stanley Cups. I know they couldn't go in 2022, but if the NHL would have been able to work out that insurance issue back in 2018 with the IOC, we would have got to see 21-year-old McDavid with 30-year-old Crosby. And that will always, I think, frustrate me that we didn't get to see those two together.
No. Agreed. I mean, that's what we always wanted, right? Like as hockey fans and as fans of the Canadian team, you just want to see your best players, play like we've been able to see, right? Like watching Gretzky and Lemieux play together goes in like some of the greatest moments that I've ever watched hockey, right? Like the two of them, just it's unbelievable, right? And now you'll get to watch McDavid and Crosby go at it, but they, like Crosby, isn't going to be the same player that it could have been, and McDavid, we don't even know, right? Like 2 years is 2 years; it's still a long time, right? Like he's going to be 29.
I think he'll still be the best player in the world at 29.
I mean,
I feel pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I suspect, but I mean, this is still, as I mean, and McDavid defies a lot of logic. So, but it's still considered, right? Like that's starting to the start of the waning years, right? So, like we might not, or we may see prime McDavid, but we might not, right? Like we don't know. 2 years is 2 years, right? And the reality is that the NHL has just waited too long. It's ridiculous that it's taken this long. McDavid said it a long time ago, but we will get a chance to see some of these players play together. I'll be excited to see Bedard and McDavid, to see, who knows, like if we see McDavid and McKinnon on the power play as you think, that's pretty damn exciting, right? Like I'm excited to watch that power play. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah. I mean,
there's a lot of reasons to be excited about that team.
It's going to make the other countries not want to take a penalty against Canada for sure.
The biggest challenge Canada is going to have is, maybe after last night, maybe we know who's going to be in net. But I mean,
Canada's goalies might be both of the two that were in last night's game.
Yeah, absolutely. And but the goaltending, which is. Adin Hill's having a hell of a season, although he hasn't played many games, but he's certainly proving that he's not just a flash in the pan, from last season. Just proven to be a good goaltender. Cale Makar and McDavid. Like Cale Makar gets to play today with McKinnon, which is pretty exciting to watch those two together. But Cale Makar and McDavid will be next level, right? I've always thought that the second best player in the world is Cale Makar.
I mean, there's a strong argument to be made that way.
Yeah, I mean, and we watched it when the Oilers played the Avalanche in the playoffs. There were nights where Cale Makar looked like the best player in the world. And he's just such a fun player to watch, and to watch those two play together. I'm excited. I mean, it's a couple of years away. A lot can happen. I'm going to try to be at the Olympics in Italy.
Nice.
Nice.
I think 2 years from yesterday it'll start.
Yeah. Outstanding, right? Yeah.
Can't wait.
Maybe we'll get heavy hockey net press passes.
All right.
Sign me up.
Set me up for that.
We'll sign you all up. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We're not going to take a break as we go into the final 30 minutes. We're going to talk some Oilers hockey. We talked lots of extra hockey, which if you talk best on best, you can't leave out those Oilers. That's right. Connor McDavid, maybe Stuart Skinner. Darnell Nurse is a guy whose name maybe 3 months ago wouldn't have been mentioned, right? Last night, hell of a game. Let's talk some Oilers hockey, right? Like I thought one of the best and most solid defensemen out there last night. Really played a hell of a game. But here's the thing. Are we not expecting that now from him? Are we past this, point of which people are yelling and screaming at Darnell Nurse? I'm sure they still are. Spend a lot of time on Twitter. People are screaming about anybody. But how do you guys feel about Darnell Nurse and his game lately?
I think he's finally getting some of the credit that he's been due for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he's been on the ice for a lot of goals against, but that happens when you're eating the most minutes on a team that's giving up a lot of goals. Right? That's just the way it's going to happen. Like Darnell Nurse hasn't had the benefit of playing with a guy like Matthias Ekholm, who's been that steadying influence beside Bouchard. Like Nurse has never had that. But now we're seeing Nurse and what he really brings to the table. And now that the team is, they just played 14 straight games where they allowed 2 or fewer goals. And last night, you could almost count last night as 15 because one was an empty netter.
Yeah.
Right? So
something though has triggered in Darnell Nurse, and he's playing a more mature game than I've ever seen him play. And maybe that's because he's not being relied on as much, and he can pivot to that. But I do think, like, when I watch him play, like, he doesn't, he at least 4 or 5 times a game you'd see him rush up the side of the ice and shoot one into the breadbasket, right? Like that was typical Darnell Nurse. And then he'd be rushing back to get back into the play.
And he's still jumping up into the play.
He still jumps into the play, but he's 10 times smarter about it.
Makes smarter pinches, and he has the speed to get back still too.
Yeah, he did. There's no doubt. The guy's like one of the most athletic defensemen in the league. There's no doubt there.
Mm-hmm.
But he was doing that like all the time, And now he does it.
Nurse too.
Yeah, now he does it, but he's doing it when it makes sense now, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there have been times, and I said this a few weeks back, where you see him actually turn back on plays that he never turned back on before, that he would have chased into the offensive zone. Like the maturity level is through the roof on him, or maybe it's because he's not playing as many minutes, right? Like maybe it's because he doesn't feel like he's got to do everything to be successful.
I think coaching is a part of it too, because I remember all the work I did in the early part of the season, just breaking down individual goals against, because it was just so weird that we were allowing all these goals when we thought we were playing pretty well defensively. But a lot of them were mistakes that happened in the neutral zone or at the offensive blue line. It's just defensemen making poor pinches or ill-timed pinches and paying for it at the other end. We're not seeing that happen like hardly at all anymore. It's like, yeah, guys are still jumping up in the play. Like Kulak had a couple good opportunities last night and made a couple great defensive plays at the other end as well. But I haven't seen Desharnais make that kind of mistake since the beginning of the season. I haven't seen anybody else really. Like Bouchard was a really bad for it, and his game has settled down since the coaching change. So I don't think we can say that just about Nurse.
I mean, and every defenseman is going to make a mistake during a game at least once, right? Like they just don't have perfect games, right? But it's not glaring mistake after glaring mistake. And they're just looking good, like Desharnais, right? Like you're right. Like he's just, he's playing solid games. He's doing more right things than he is doing wrong things, which, might not have been true, 2.5 months ago, right? Like these guys are just making the right choices all the time. And yeah, maybe it's coaching, I think probably has something to do with it. Obviously, I mean, things have changed. The crazy thing, and I'm kind of curious about this, what you guys think. Like, I mean, we loved Woodcroft, right? Didn't we? Didn't we love Wood? Wasn't he the guy? Wasn't he the guy? Like, what happened?
I think he overthought things in the early part of this season. I just think he picked the wrong systems for this group, and it just bit him in the ass. And there were some unfortunate circumstances too. Like he can't help control injuries, and he can't control the goaltending, right? But I do think that there were some systemic errors that he made at the start of the year.
The other thing too is that with Jeff Jackson coming in early August, Jay Woodcroft was not a Jeff Jackson hire. So I had a feeling that he might look at making a GM change and a coaching change in his first off season, being there for the full time. So I figured he'd get through this season. Holland was going to retire. A new GM was coming in that would have Jeff Jackson's fingerprints on the organization, but maybe that Jay Woodcroft would also be replaced. And he has a long-standing relationship with Chris Knobloch, and I think that the tough start to the season just sort of expedited the process a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think there was a point too, though, where we all looked right and thought maybe Woodcroft needs to go. I mean, I'm asking the question, like, what happened? We love this guy, but didn't you guys at one point think maybe he needs to make a change, even though it seemed completely irrational to change the coach again? Like, the Oilers change coaches like people change their underwear. It just happens all the time, right? But it just seemed like the natural thing to do in this instance. And Knobloch and the team. I mean, we always, we talk about Woodcroft, but it was Woodcroft and Manson, and now it's Knobloch and Stewart and Coffey. Although Gully seems to be immune to everything.
Keep surviving, former Saskatoon Blade.
Yeah. I want to be beside him in a nuclear winter because he knows what to do. But look, like it just seemed like the right thing to do, and I think and I said this, I've said this before. It's like when an Oilers coach is in trouble, when you see way more McDavid, Draisaitl playing together. It's like, I've tried everything in the arsenal. Let's just put the nuclear option out there. Right? Yeah. I mean, McClellan's looking for another job.
Yeah, and he's the last Oilers coach to make it 3 full seasons without being fired.
What do you guys think of him? I mean, it's
I thought he was the right coach at the time.
Yeah.
Think back to where the organization was in 2015. It was very different 9 years ago than it was now. They were coming off their second worst season in franchise history based on points percentage. They had just won McDavid in the lottery. They had all these young, talented players that had never experienced any team success. I think they needed a veteran coach in there to get them headed in the right direction. And I mean, it worked out. They had a 100-point season in his second year with the club. So I would say that McClellan at the time was the right guy to be the coach of this team.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was hard to really look at any of the coaches over this tenure, and that when they were, hired, it just seemed like they were right, like that they were the right guys at the right time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we certainly, I think, expected more from Tippett, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like there's just, it's a funny bunch, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. We're not there. Are they hard to coach? They can't be hard to coach. I mean, these guys, they want to win, right? Like they want to be out there.
When it rains, it pours here. Like when we go on a losing streak, we go on a losing streak. When things go bad, they go real bad. And then that's when coaching decisions start to happen, right? Like you saw it in LA with McClellan. Things went real bad for LA for a while, and then the coaching change happens, right? It's
somewhat similar to the situation where Knobloch took over for Woodcroft. I mean, that was, as I said, a case of the CEO wanting to bring in a coach he was familiar with. But if you think back to when Woodcroft was coaching Bakersfield, he was fairly highly regarded in hockey circles and sort of viewed as like an up-and-coming potential NHL coach. And I think that the Oilers realized that if they didn't promote him, that they were going to lose him and that he eventually would be hired as someone else's head coach. So once a losing streak happened in the 2021-22 season, it sort of opened the door to finally let that occur. Well, now is the perfect time to bring him up because we don't want this guy, after developing with our farm team for the past 4 years, going and coaching somebody else.
Well, and he had been on McClellan's staff, right? Like he had a relationship with like the entire team.
He also had the opportunity in 2019 to join him and be an assistant coach on his staff, but ultimately chose to coach Bakersfield in the AHL as the head coach instead. And I think he would probably say now, although there was a lot more riding the bus than flying on planes and not as many 5-star hotels, that investment in himself by running his own bench in the minors was probably the best career decision he ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's. Do you guys think Woodcroft's going to end up anywhere soon?
Yeah, I think that he will get a job. I don't know exactly what spot he's going to land in, but I will bet by the time puck drop starts on the 2024-25 season, he'll be the head coach behind another bench. And I think he'll have Dave Manson on his staff too.
Yeah. I think when I think about Woodcroft, I think he might be in the unenviable position of having had good experience, but not enough experience, and maybe like now too overqualified to be talking to an AHL team, but maybe not qualified enough. Like he'll always have the mantra of being the guy that coached McDavid, right? Like, so, just like the Oilers played against the poor teams in the 16, oh yeah, well, anybody could have got a 650 record with McDavid and company, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, maybe not get the credit that he deserves, especially given the fact that Knobloch has now come in and what was once an Oilers coaching record is looking like maybe it wasn't as good as we thought, right? Like, and so I kind of feel, because I loved Woodcroft. I thought, other than, was I happy to see him go? Well, I think at the timing, I wouldn't say happy. Happy is maybe not the right way to put it, but
Needed to do
at
something.
the right time, it was the right move, and it certainly shows.
It was a relief.
Yeah.
It was just a relief because it was so stressful, like that 9-2 or 2-9-1, whatever it was. That start was just awful.
2-9-1, yeah.
Well, and there was some,
3-9-1.
I would love to know. Maybe we'll never know until McDavid comes out with his memoirs. But I would love to know, like, did Woodcroft lose the team? Like, there was some rumblings that there were players on the team, mainly leadership, that were not in his corner anymore.
Well, the players themselves said that they didn't, but I mean, that's talking to the media, but still they said that was never the case.
Yeah. I mean, we'll never know the truth. Right. Yeah.
Even as a fan listening to his press conferences, the one thing he's said all the time, his mantra is take care of today's business. We're focused on today's business, and today's business is this. Whether it was practice day, rest day, winning a game, right? And I've heard McDavid echo that sentiment in recent interviews, like during the winning streak. He's like, "Yep, we're just going to be taking care of what we need to take care of today." Like he had his own wording, but so. Every coach has a shelf life, right? Like I think it was Craig McTavish when he was an analyst on TSN when he was out of a coaching job. He said he didn't get into coaching for the job security.
No.
right? Like every coach has a shelf life. Like eventually you hear the same message day after day, and you're like, yeah, just go away, right? But I think that stuck with the Oilers. I think that stuck with McDavid. So I see McDavid's words in his recent interviews as evidence that I don't think Woodcroft necessarily lost the room. I just think it was tactical errors.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that Knobloch, now that he's in here and where this team is at in its life cycle and like how they're pushing to try and win a championship, he needs to be the coach of this team for at least 5 years.
I mean, that type of term is going to come with some championships. Yeah. Like no coach gets to 5 years if they don't win a championship, right? It's rare.
I mean, I'm banking on that there will be at least one championship in the next 5 years, but also,
I hope you're right.
But also, I mean, do you really want to like keep switching coaches that many times during the McDavid era? Nugent Hopkins, I mean, look at the list of coaches he's had, but there were a lot more lean years in Nugent Hopkins' career than there has been in McDavid. So I would like to think that, you know, especially with the relationship that McDavid and Knobloch have going back to 2012 when Connor was just 15 playing in Erie, you'd like to think that this is something that they could sustain long term and put to. And
well, I ask you this because this is, I mean, you're talking about it right now, right? Like everybody talks about this, you know. I mean, Dash is, you know, when we've had this conversation before, he said the same things, like, oh, you know, how many coaches has Nuge had? What does it matter? Like, honestly, what does it matter if, as long as the only thing that matters is typically if you got a lot of coaches, it means somewhere in the lineup you've lost something, right?
Yeah.
That's what matters, right? But let's be frank. Like, winning the Stanley Cup is no joke. Right? Like this is no joke. Good teams win the Stanley Cup.
Toughest trophy in sports to win.
Toughest trophy in sports. Exactly. Right. Like I always love, you know, there's a lot of things that Burke annoys me about, but Brian Burke always laughs at the deadline, right? Like there's one team, right, out of all of these people that make these big trades at the deadline that's going to win the cup. And the rest of them screwed up at the deadline. The rest of them overpaid, right? One team.
100%.
You know, and so yeah, whatever.
But you have to take runs at it too.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Big deal. I don't care. You know, whatever. Like the Oilers won 16 in a row now. It doesn't matter. Right from here. Like there's one thing that matters at the end of the year is not how many coaches. They'll never ask Nugent Hopkins, how many coaches did you have in your career? How many Stanley Cups did you win? Until you get the right coach that gets you the Stanley Cup, get 20, right? Take 20 coaches. If the 20th coach is the one that takes you to the Stanley Cup, that's what they care about, right?
Yeah. So like, there's two things that could be wrong with a hockey team: either the roster or the coaching, right? You can't change them all at once.
You can't change the roster.
Can't change,
though, right? Like.
Yeah. You can't systemically over time. Like how many guys are left from the Peter Chiarelli era? Yeah. Right? It's the core guys.
Yeah.
Right?
I just
so
had a little bit
you make changes to the roster over time, and a coach gets a year, 2 or 3 generally to coach them, and if they can't gain traction or win that championship, then out the door you go, and they bring in another one. But if you do win, then you get John Cooper situations where you're in one city for 10 plus years or however long it's
perfect,
been.
Right? Like good.
But I think
John
they
Cooper.
have found one now that works well with this group. I know it's a small sample size. We haven't even seen him for a full season in Edmonton. But like I said, the connection that he has to the captain of the team, that he has to the CEO of the team, that he has to the city that the team plays in, having been a former U of A Golden Bear. I just think that, you know, this is a relationship that seems like it has the potential to last a while, especially like Ryan said, if they do start winning. I guess one thing that I can't help but think this. I don't know about you guys, but like one of the biggest priorities for the organization after winning, which should always be number one, is keeping McDavid happy. And I always think they have to take in every decision they make into that account. Is this going to keep Connor happy? And I think having Knobloch here, someone that he's known for over a decade, leads to that. Having Jeff Jackson here leads to that. And if you want to keep him long term, which I've always believed that he will be an Oiler for life, then you have to be keeping these things in mind. And that's another reason why I think firing Knobloch next season, if they get off to a 5-game losing streak or however long it ends up being, or just losing at the wrong time, I think it would be a mistake to make yet another coaching change. This is one that they should try to maintain for a while.
Yeah, I honestly don't care, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, I agree. If McDavid's happy because of the coach, but in the same token, if the coach isn't going to lead the team to a Stanley Cup, going to help this team get a Stanley Cup, like if McDavid is happy for 20 years in Edmonton and we don't have a single Stanley Cup,
And
I
he
don't
won't
care.
be happy. He won't
I
be
don't
happy.
No, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if McDavid leaves, if he leaves and the next year we win a Stanley Cup, see ya. Right? Like I'm an Oilers fan first. Let's be honest, right? Like I love Connor McDavid. Don't get me wrong. Best player in the world, maybe most advanced player we've ever seen in our lifetime. Love him, but like this to me is about the Oilers, right? Like whatever happens, and the Oilers need to win a Stanley Cup. I think the best path to a Stanley Cup, obviously, is keeping your top players, like McDavid, like Draisaitl, like Nurse, like Skinner, right? Like your top players happy and moving in the right direction. So don't
I don't think the players were happy. I don't think the players were happy about losing Woodcroft this year. Right? They weren't happy about that move. Yes, Knobloch has a connection with McDavid, and that was probably a great choice to bring him in, but they were not happy about losing Woodcroft. And I don't think that they were happy about losing McLellan either. I don't think they were happy about losing Tip. I don't think they're happy about losing any coach.
No, and part of the reason, though, is because when you lose a coach, you're losing.
It means the team's losing,
You're
right?
in a bad mood already, right?
Yeah.
You're in a bad mood already.
I mean, even last year, like Tyson Barrie was a very good friend of McDavid's, but, he got traded and they brought in Ekholm and the team has been better for it. So even though he saw a good friend go out the door, do you think that he's not happier now because the team is playing better? So I would say that, I mean, the number one way you keep him happy and the group happy, and Draisaitl, all these guys, is by winning.
Yep.
100%. Right? Like that's, and so I guess at the end of the day, if they need to change the coach to win, then they change the coach. That's what's going to make them happy. Right?
That's kind of what I was getting
honestly,
at.
like,
right?
Like the Oilers got to the Stanley Cup Finals, and everybody left anyway.
They lost 7 free agents in the summer of 2006.
Yeah. So you know what? I don't care. There's one thing I want. It's a cup, and I honestly I would love to see McDavid and Draisaitl carrying it with an Oilers jersey on. But I'll be honest. To me, the team is more important than the players. And
it always has to be.
I'm an Oilers fan first, and so whoever lifts that cup, and I hope it's Gags. I want to see Gagne. In fact, there are other guys that I want to see lift the cup on the Oilers, just because of like Nugent Hopkins. Like how great would it be to see him?
I put a Twitter poll out about that months ago saying, what do you think the order would be that they pass the cup around? I still think Draisaitl gets handed it first from McDavid. I think that he's going to give it to his
brother. They're like brothers, those two, right?
Yeah, but Leon's giving it to Nuge next, I think.
I think they have to, right? Like there's,
and probably Nuge to Gagne.
Eggs is the only guy that could change that.
Who is?
Gagne.
Gags. Yeah. Like he's the only guy you can make an argument for ahead of Nuge.
That's true.
He gets it after Nuge, in my opinion. Nuge has been there consistently for 13 years. He gets it third, and then he hands it to Gagne. And if it's in Edmonton, honestly, aside from McDavid being the first person to lift it, the crowd pop for Gagne lifting the cup, I think, might be bigger than anyone else on the team.
That's true.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are guys that you want to see lifted for sure. Gagne's there.
Everyone.
Huge. I mean, anyone in an Oilers.
I'll cheer for Adam Ernie lifting.
yeah. You bet we will. Yeah. All right. All right. We got about 5 minutes left, guys.
Thought you like that one.
Yeah, I love Adam Ernie's. Hey, we could pick up Shoresy, right? Shoresy was on, or he wouldn't be on waivers anymore. He'd
No.
cleared by now. Missed our chats. Oilers got Anaheim up, and then LA.
Yeah.
I think these are big games
right
now, right? Like they're now LA. Like they haven't played yet, have they?
We're their first game back.
Yeah. Are we really?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because they played closer up to the All-Star game. I think they were only done on the Wednesday before it started, or the Tuesday, whereas the Oilers were done the previous Saturday.
Geez, that's advantage Oilers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and they're coming off I think ours was a 9-day break. I think the Kings is a 10-day break.
Yeah. So Oilers played Ducks on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the Oilers schedule here. Let's see if you guys, if you got a little dash in you. Let's see what you got. We've got February in front of us now. Okay.
I already predicted the other night, but I'll echo it again.
Yeah.
We're going to have at least one loss in February.
All right. No. Okay. We got, we're going to have one loss in February. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
12.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 games left.
Isn't there 12? Oh, 11. Okay, including last night. Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, 11 games left up till the 28th. 6 of those remaining games are on the road or at home. Sorry. 5 of them are at on the road. We've got this is probably the toughest teams in that stretch. Really, actually, it's not that bad. We got Dallas and Boston are the two. Detroit could be tricky. They can come out. But outside of that, all these teams are below Edmonton in the standings. All right. Let's see who can do a dash here, because dash time stamped it, the whole deal. Time stamped it. I'm gonna time stamp. Okay, it's 9/20/26 Atlantic time. So do the math, you guys. It's your math lesson here. So that's 6:26.
I'm an English guy, not a math guy.
Time stamping it. I am going to say, out of these next 5, 10, 11 games, the Oilers lose 3.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And I'm going to say one of those to the Blues, because they play them both home and away, and hard to win twice. One of them to LA. Hopefully, I hope it's not this Saturday.
Me either. I'm going to be there. I need to be there for a win.
And I'm going to say the third one to I think they'll lose 2 in a row, Blues and Dallas. So I think they'll lose to Blues and Dallas on the road, and Oil Country will freak out because we've lost 2 in a row. Forget what it feels like, but they'll come back. So that's what I'm guessing. 8 and 3, Blues, Dallas, and LA as being the losses. Okay, so that's 9/27 now. All right, you guys. Who's up next?
You can go ahead, Ryan.
All right, Ryan.
All right. I am going to be different from you guys. I'm going to say we lose 4 of those games remaining in February.
Are you even a fan? Right, 4 games. Yeah.
I'm the realist at the Heavy Hockey Network.
All right. Well, I thought I was too, but Dash got it right last time. Yeah.
We did.
I'll do the
We got 2 games against the Kings. We got 2 games against the Kings, home and away. I think we'll lose one of those. Let's see here. We got the Ducks. We got the Coyotes. I feel like we'll probably lose one of those games where we should win, but we just won't for whatever reason. And the Wild is the other one that sticks out to me.
Oh, I'm going to that one. I don't want that. Gotta get a win then.
The Bruins are the other one that scare me, but we just saw the Oilers, the type of game they can play when they need to against one of the league's better teams. So I'll say they beat the Bruins, but lose to the Wild, lose to the Coyotes, once to the Kings, and I have to pick one other one that they're going to lose. I'll say the Red Wings.
All right.
We just got them at home in a tight game. They'll get us at home when we're at home in a tight game.
All right. That's good. All right, Eric, you're up.
Well, I mean, I'm already on record on my show, so I can't really change it.
Right.
I'll say that they're going to go 8-4 this month. I had last night. I thought might be one of the losses. I was hoping I was going to be wrong, and after getting off to that good start, I said, "Okay, good. I am going to be wrong." But I just said it'll be Vegas, LA, Dallas, and Boston are the games that they'll lose, and they'll win the other 8.
All right. So Vegas, LA, and Boston. What? Okay,
Dallas.
And Dallas. Vegas, LA, Dallas, and Boston. All right. We're off Edmonton Sports Talk now, so now we're on borrowed time here.
All right.
On the Heavy Hockey Network YouTube. All right, so there you have it. We got all 3 predictions. We can go back, we can look and do we can go back to the video replay. The video replay. For the record, Dash said we'd win the Vegas game offline, but
the streak continued.
Had to end. His streak had to end.
Yeah.
Oilers streak had to end. It is what it is. All right. So Oilers playing Anaheim on Friday, 8 p.m. Mountain in Anaheim. They move to LA. I actually think if the Oilers lose to LA, I mean, there's a good chance, new coach, the whole deal, right? Like this could be the game, back end of a back-to-back. But the Oilers do have an advantage that the LA is coming off that long break, right?
Yeah, we have the issue of coming down from a high after and being angry and frustrated after losing to Vegas. And I'm going to be at both the LA and Anaheim games this weekend, so you never know.
Are you really?
Whether that means anything, I don't know. I want to say they're going to win them both, but I'm worried.
This is on the road. You're on a road trip?
Yeah, boys trip this weekend. So we're doing LA and Anaheim for those 2 games. We're going to see a Clippers game as well while we're in LA, and then we're bussing over to Vegas, and we got a top golf booth booked out for the Super Bowl. So that's going to be a hell of a time.
Nice. Little Top Golf. Wow, man, living large.
Trip of a lifetime.
This is what you get when you're a senior writer at Heavy Hockey,
right?
Wow. Like you bank those dollars you make off of every click.
Yeah, every last
you
one.
too could be going on a LA Anaheim road trip to watch.
Yeah.
So send me your resumes. Let's do a couple of stories. All right, before we go, let everybody know Heavy Hockey Showdown, February 24th and 25th. The 24th is the pre-party. We're going to go to the Soho. Check it out at heavyhockey.com/heavyhockey showdown. Tickets to the pre-party event are $10. Get those today because they're going to sell out fast. I think we've sold about 50 tickets already. We're about 50% sold, 2 weeks to go, and I haven't really even advertised them yet. So those I'm going to get on that push this week. Once I do, be prepared. That'll sell out. There's limited space at Soho, so make sure you get your tickets for that. And then, of course, on the 25th, we're going to, the three of us will be playing. We got jerseys, the whole deal. Rob Clark's going to be singing the anthem. We're going to have Hunter there. Lots of stuff in the stands. Lots of activities going on. The guys from Edmonton Sports Talk will be there. Dusty and Tom Gazzola, the gang, YouTube Trev, Lieutenant Eric, I imagine, will be there to watch the game. And I think if Edmonton Sports Talk wins, we cut Eric's hair.
No.
If Heavy Hockey wins, we cut Lieutenant Eric's hair. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules.
It's like a hair versus hair match, like back in the WWE days.
That's right. So we're gonna have lots of fun there. Teams are full, and already set for that one. Should be a good game. Lots of fun. Pretty heavy hitting, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Pretty.
I've been training hard for this one.
Training hard.
Cases like.
So make sure you check all those things out. I think that's it, guys. I want to thank you for being here on short notice. I know we had lots of audio problems. It didn't help with the show stuff. I'll probably have to delete the first half and the way that it came out, but hey, is what it is. We got a chance to sit and talk some hockey for about an hour and a half, and that's always fun. And at the very least, we've got your predictions on audio, time stamped for Mr. Dash himself, who we miss dearly being on the show. I mean, I didn't have to argue with anybody tonight. It's like my whole arguing side of my brain is like, it's not there. Now I'm gonna go have to stand in the corner and yell at myself, I guess, for a little bit. See what happens. All right. Any last words, guys?
I just want to say thanks again for having me on the show. Always a blast. Really looking forward to seeing all you guys in a couple of weeks, and most importantly, raising some money for a very important cause.
You bet. Yeah. Lotsa, you get the last word. When you're done, say good night, and we're out of here.
All right, sounds good. So, yeah, I'll touch on the showdown as well. Anybody that's following me on Twitter likely has seen me posting fitness and fundraising updates throughout the last 5-6 weeks here. So I've been on this quest of personal improvement since last spring, and working out and making changes to my body is part of that. And I've taken the opportunity to attach that to my fundraising for the Heavy Hockey Showdown in support of the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton this year. So I've been doing something training related every day since early January, and all in hopes of not embarrassing myself out there on the showdown on the 25th. So I've raised $1,000 for SACE so far, which was my original goal. So thank you to everybody that has contributed to that. But we still have a lot of time left until the showdown, and I've raised my goal up to $2,000.
Wow.
And so it's going to be an ambitious goal, and I'm sitting third on the leaderboard. I've got to catch Michelle Jean on Twitter. She's sitting on top. She's been crushing it, and I got to catch up to her. So if anybody is willing to support me in my training journey and my journey of trying to catch Michelle on top of the leaderboard, and more importantly, in support of the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, and then hit up my profile at Lots Ryan on Twitter, and you'll find the donation link there.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight, everybody, and have yourselves a wonderful night.
Oilerslive.